This is Becky Pringle, the current president of the National Education Association.
Show me your power, NEA. Turn up the lights in the hall, please. Turn them up. I want to see you. Yeah, there you is. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. I need you to stand up, NEA. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Look around and see our power.
$495,000 a year. That's the salary she pays herself. That's almost 8.5 times more than the average United States teacher makes, and she makes more than the President of the United States. And this is Bob Shannon. He served as the NEA's top lawyer for over 40 years, defending the NEA's ability to fund and enforce its political agenda.
NEA and its affiliates are effective advocates because we have power. It is not because we care about children, and it is not because we have a vision of a great public school for every child.
Today, I'm going to talk about the NEA, its power, its corruption, and how it's poisoning public education as we know it. If you're new here, welcome to Schooling America, where I talk about the education system, parenting, and culture here on this channel. So you've probably heard a little bit about the NEA, and odds are if you're a teacher, you've been nudged at one point to become a member. Now, the NEA wants you to so desperately believe that it's for the teachers, for the students, for the classrooms, and that they give educators the voice that they so desperately have been begging for years. But the receipts, they tell a different story. In fact, they are an incredibly deceptive organization. They claim DEI and they claim to represent all of their union members, but they spend millions on partisan politics. Over 98% of NEA political contributions go to the Democrats, using member money to push a narrow agenda. And then they love to preach equity, but then actively fight against charter schools and school choice programs that give low-income families a real shot at education, at a quality education. So which is it, Ms. Pringle? Is it equity or is it just control? And let me speak from experience here. When I was in college, in one of my education courses, my professor made it very clear. She said if you don't join the union, you're not getting a credit for this college course. And then when I became a teacher, it didn't stop. I had Florida union representatives coming up to my classroom, which if you're a teacher, you know your classroom, like after school hours are like crunch time. Like you don't want anyone bothering you. You have so much to do. The last thing you want is a union member coming to your classroom telling you, hey, give us more of your paycheck. These union members often use rhetoric like, you never know what could happen. Some parents end up suing teachers and you'll have no one to represent you. We represent teachers and, just in case, you should join this union just in case anything bad happens. So they would rattle off scary stories, local lawsuits, and worst case scenarios to make you feel that the only way to feel safe was to join the union. But look, that's not support, and it's definitely not what teachers deserve. It was all out of fear and like, hey, this is what we could do if, or hey, this is what we can provide if, never anything proactive for the teachers. And so when you look at the facts and you look at the numbers of what the union is actually spending on teachers, it's abysmal. Only 7.5% of the NEA's budget went to actually representing teachers. That's $39.2 million. That seems like a lot, but that's out of the entire budget that they had for the year of 2022 to 2023, which was $529.5 million. So listen, if you're a teacher who's tired of the bureaucrats and tired of the politics in education, you're gonna wanna watch this video because we are going to connect some dots today. Before I get into everything, why should you care? Because the NEA is the largest labor union in America. It has money, it has influence, and it has power that most labor unions can only dream of. And it has the potential to support teachers, lower classroom sizes, more education program funding, resource positions and support, increasing teacher wages, just like real basic protections for teachers that we've been begging for, hands and knees, begging for years. Instead, it's being used to lobby politics and education. Cool. We're gonna play a fun game real quick. It's called Follow the Money Trail. In 2022 to 2023, the NEA spent over $50 million on political activity. But hold on, the $50 million was just the reported political spending, though the true number is much, much higher than that. The NEA reported spending $126.3 million on contributions, gifts, and grants that actually went towards political organizations, including, but not limited to, $4.1 million to a progressive advocacy that funds left-wing candidates and issues, $500,000 to a Soros-backed liberal advocacy organization that supports soft-on-crime district attorneys, $16 million to NEA's very own super PAC, $8 million to consulting, public relations, and research firms to help support NEA's political objectives, and $7.3 million to state and local affiliates to support their political activity. Are you guys getting it? Are you guys kind of like catching along? Because that's insane. And the same story goes for the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. With over 1.7 million members in the country, and noted as the second largest teachers union in America, they spent $46.9 million on political activities. Yes, the same union that represents teachers is also representing politics. Like the NEA, the AFT gave primarily to left-wing causes and candidates. For Trump versus Kamala campaign, 99.9% of their money went to the Democrats, totaling $2.5 million. Meanwhile, Republicans received $2,523, or just 0.1%. It's not about which candidate is being funded, guys. It's about what is our union that represents teachers putting their time, money, and resources on when teachers can barely afford their own rent. They have to live with a roommate. They can barely decide between gas or groceries. Meanwhile, they're buying all their pencils, their folders, expo markers, and just manipulatives for their students. It's not right. So the real question is, why are you being coerced to join a union that so explicitly goes against teachers' rights and teachers' interests and funds political activities and furthers their own political agenda? I mean, it's clear they're not for the teachers. They are for the power and for influence. I mean, look, money is power, guys, and boy, do these guys have a lot of power. And the reason why I'm talking about this right now is because the NEA just had their national convention earlier on in July. And at these conventions, they have speeches, they rally teachers up, and they vote on various programs or resolutions that they want to reinstate for that year, or just objectives and goals to work toward. And if you're in the union, you're gonna wanna read these items, these menu items that they're passing and advocating for, because the hypocrisy is real. It's very real. As a former teacher, it's just so disrespectful to see people in power using their power for personal issues. Like, it's just like, I am infuriated. I'm just gonna quickly go through some of the resolutions for you guys just to give you an idea of what is going on at these meetings and what the union is spending their $500 million budget on. So starting off strong, we have the NEA explicitly pledging to go against our own country and our country's interests, stating that their materials that they will create and distribute will use the term fascism. Yeah, they spelled fascism wrong. Hilarious. Fascism to characterize what resources they're going to create with our member dues. Yeah, so Title I teachers, you should be infuriated if you're not already, because they're, instead of giving you guys, you know, even a $500 stipend to go buy your students either snacks or papers or pencils or folders or literally anything that Title I students desperately need, they're creating materials, misspelled materials, to push their own propaganda, push their own opinions, which is awesome, cool, great. Oh, and so how does that benefit teachers? Oh, wait, it doesn't? Oh, okay, cool, okay, nice. No, wait, bathroom breaks? No. A resource teacher? No. Better working conditions? No. Metal detectors? Okay, let's move on. The NEA will use existing media channels to oppose any move to eliminate the Department of Education and frame it as an illegal, anti-democratic, and racist attempt to destroy public education and privatize it in the interest of the billionaires. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, and that is just blatantly not true. This is a perfect example of the propaganda that they're pushing. We need to clear something up real quick. The Department of Education acts federally as, the blanket umbrella over all individual state departments of education. However, With a lot of the issues that we're facing with funding and resource allocation, we're finding that the DOE is just an unnecessary middleman for some of its functions. Not all, some. And so eliminating the DOE can help states receive their funding more directly, quicker, and just less people having their hands on the money. So basically just trying to eliminate waste and trying to ensure states have their own say with their own budget. And that should not be a partisan issue. I don't know why we're making this or calling it racist. It's a stretch. It's a very big stretch. And by the way, let me just bring something up real quick. Back in 2019, the teachers union defeated a business item to rededicate itself to the pursuit of increased student learning in every public school in America. They explicitly decided that that was less important than all the other menu items that they're deciding on. They're saying, we don't care about the teachers or student success. Well, we can very much see that. The NEA opposes ICE kidnapping of student leaders and supports students' rights to organize against ICE raids and deportations. Not only that, but they're also defending students' right to dissent and organize against Trump's policies, including and not limited to, attacks against LGBTQ plus students and against racism. And they're going to use all their channels to get this message across. They're inciting violence and they're inciting rage among our students instead of finding solutions for these problems. The largest teachers union, every single year, they bring in $500 million and they are not working at all to find any solutions. They just want to spread more hate, fear, and push their own political ideologies. And then the next one, response to the most recent Supreme Court case Mahmoud versus Taylor, the NEA shall essentially give everyone a Know Your Rights document, a sample school board resolution that protects parents and educators in the classroom who are deciding to go against and teach the LGBTQ plus classroom, inclusive classroom content. They're going to hold virtual town hall meetings and discussions on how to talk about these things, etc. Love a good workaround policy. Love a good loophole situation they got on here. The fact that you know something is wrong and you have to still find a loophole to rebrand and reattack, you might just want to give up. You might just want to give up. Because if you're constantly having to find loopholes, there's a problem. Parents are upset. It's not just the government. It's not just the people in power. We're hearing it from the parents. The people on the ground level are not agreeing with this content. And again, if you want more public trust and public education and higher enrollments, and you don't want parents using those vouchers to go choose their own school or send their kid to a private school or a charter school, then you might want to look at your policies and what you're pushing for public schools, because it's clearly not working and it's making more teachers distrust the public institution that was created to benefit us and benefit our country. I'm going to put the link in the description of where I found all of these business items, because of course they're not published online. Union members have to sneak photos and report on what is happening inside these meetings. Do you want to know what the NEA is actually so upset about? There are right-to-work states, and Florida is one of them. A teacher who chooses not to join the union doesn't face very many problems with the union. So a teacher who decides not to join the union doesn't have to pay the union money. And that's kind of why right-to-work states don't really have a ton of issues. And it's also why they'll lose a lot of power, since President Trump wants to give the power back to the states. And you want to know what I see? I see a bankrupt union begging for money as they see their funds going down, as they see member enrollments declining. I see a rhetoric of getting people emotionally attached and upset and outraged over narratives that aren't actually happening, just so they can continue down this path of political power and political influence. The NEA does not care about you. If you think they're supporting your beliefs, they aren't. They will continue to pursue their collective beliefs, and it just so happens that it aligns with your beliefs at the moment. Because to them, you are just a number. They have their own personal agenda. They have their personal, subjective realities that they live in and things that they're going to push for. But you need to realize, as a teacher, they are not doing anything for you with what they could do. And they will continually put their wants over your needs. So if you're a teacher in this union and you think they care about you, they don't. Sorry. They actually really don't. Because if they did, they would be giving that money, the $500 million budget, they would be allocating more than 7.5% to our teachers. And the sooner you wake up to the fact that this union is corrupt, the sooner you will realize that you have power to advocate for real resources and real attention for your classrooms and your students. paper, pencils, resources, resource teachers, IEP, interventions, smaller class sizes, higher wages. And in general, there's a saying, you are only as strong as your weakest link. And if you got to look into our Title I schools or our lowest scoring districts in the country, you would be terrified. And by the way, back to the Department of Education conversation, President Trump has explicitly stated the department's useful functions will be preserved, fully preserved, referring to Pell Grants, Title I funding, IDEA programs, all of the above. They're going to be preserved in full and redistributed to various other agencies and departments. So enough with the fear-mongering, guys. Enough. Like that. You are so easily subjecting your emotions to these people who don't care about you, and they're so blatantly using you. I remember when the conversation around the DOE shutting down first happened, I went on TikTok and on my feed, I saw so many videos. Guys, illegal. Can I not sit my student who can't see at the front of the classroom? Because that's inclusive education. Oh, can I not read a book with a student of color? What do I do? Can I not ask my students what they did over the weekend? Because no. So really what is happening though is that a lot of teachers are burnt out. They're frustrated because they don't get a say. They're pushed around like the wind. Like they don't get a say. They don't have a platform. Teachers are not listened to. We receive disrespectful wages for the work that we do, and disrespect from the parents, and disrespect from the students and the society in general. And it's just frustrating to hear that we're negatively being impacted, and yet none of what we're asking for is being listened to. And it's simple things. Increase our wages, give our students more resources, and give us some respect. That's it. For a fact, 100% know that public school outcomes will increase if you just do one of those things. One. So let's just switch gears and talk about what the NEA could do for you if they weren't a corrupt, deceptive, power-hungry organization. $529 million. Again, that's what the NEA pulled in during the 2022-2023 year. $374.2 million of those dollars came directly from teachers' paychecks. The same teachers who work 50 to 60 hours a week, where those paychecks are 100% guaranteed cash in with tears and sweat. Take just half of that, $187 million, and you could fund 3,740 resource teachers. Almost 4,000 resource teachers at $50,000 a year. This will reduce caseloads, support IEPs, provide interventions, and help kids who truly need it. Or imagine redirecting 10% of the dues income. $37.4 million to teacher salary boosts in struggling districts. That would be a $2,000 raise for nearly 19,000 teachers in places where teachers are choosing between groceries or gas. The fact is, teachers are broke, kids are behind, and the union doesn't care. Okay, so far we've reviewed the NEA, its power, its corruption, what the NEA could do for you if they cared about you, why you should care, and if you don't already agree with me that the union should be dissolved, here's a little bit of more history, just to solidify this a little bit deeper. Here is something many people don't know. The NEA is the only labor union in America with a federal charter. Now, what does that even mean? A federal charter is a symbolic stamp of approval from Congress. Basically, Congress is saying, we approve of this organization, we're gonna federally recognize it, and I mean, of course, why wouldn't they? They generate $500 million annually. Now, the NEA got this title back in 1906 when it really wasn't even functioning as a union yet. Back then, it was just a space for teachers to come together, share ideas, and see how they could make the education industry reach more people and reach more students and just spread education and knowledge. But over time, it shifted into a full-blown union with massive political influence. Which, first, I do want to note, the NEA has accomplished some amazing things for this country. And so now the NEA carries this label that no other labor union in America has. And also it explains why the NEA has this weird duality of one part of it is supporting teachers and then the other part of it is supporting politics. And if you're wondering why the NEA has such a strong disconnect between what teachers are asking for and what they're receiving, this federal charter is very much the explanation for why that is so. Just know the NEA is not just another union. And in most recent news, the GOP pushed to revoke federal charter for nation's largest teachers union. Now, the NEA is being referred to as a rogue organization, probably because the most recent convention, which I talked to you guys about, the type of budget items they're passing. It's just not serving its function anymore. The NEA has done wonderful things, but point blank period, the NEA is not supporting teachers. Becky Pringle came out and spoke against this push. Rather than supporting students and educators, some anti-public education politicians are now introducing legislation to repeal the NEA because the billionaires that fund their campaigns don't want educators to have a voice. What voice are you giving educators? To say the NEA is for the teachers, I would argue for the last 40 or 50 years, the NEA has not supported teachers at all. We have to connect the dots and see, well, okay, what the NEA has been pushing for in at least the last 50 years has been counterproductive to our education system, because what we once ranked as number 1, 40, 50 years later, we rank as number 28. And what I have been observing within the education system as a teacher who's been involved in education for the last 5 years, a lot of people who are talking about the education system have never stepped foot in a classroom or haven't been in the classroom for 10 or 15 years. A lot of these people in power, they need to be in the education system. They need to be boots on the ground in these schools, in these classrooms, in these Title I districts or schools to know what is going on in education. And it's not fair to teachers. It is not fair because we have been misrepresented and misheard and misunderstood for decades, for years. And I can't sit back and watch that continue to happen. And look, mobilizing isn't a problem. It's what you're mobilizing for. Are we mobilizing to improve reading comprehension, mathematics, skills, social skills? Or are we fighting for more power to push political agendas? And one of the problems is you can't lump every issue into a narrative of oppression. Real injustice exists, I'm not denying that. But when you're weaponizing identity politics and pushing issues that are actually harming teachers, you're 100% adding to the problem, and I'm not here for it. In conclusion, more and more teachers are waking up to a simple fact. Our union dues are not supporting teachers or our students. We're funding politics, and that's just not right. It's just not how it should be. And so let me be clear. The NEA does not represent all teachers, and they definitely don't represent the average teacher who works long hours, buys their own classroom supplies, who is showing up for the kids every single day. They represent the interests of their union and the political ideologies that come with it. And if you're not on board with their agenda, sorry, you're not the priority. So before you have a union rep knocking on your door asking you to join the union, think twice about it. Or if you're going into this school year with your union intact, your membership intact, you might want to talk to your local rep and back out of it. So I am pro-public school, probably as much as I am pro-school choice. And what I mean when I say that is public schools have quite a responsibility to support our community. I know the saying is it takes a village to raise a child, and it's true. A lot of teachers right now, they're either working moms or they're single moms or just both parents are working. In this economy, it's just the reality. And as much as we support school choice programs, we have to also acknowledge our public school teachers and our public schools and kind of what they're going through. I recognize that we can't just let the public education system collapse. The gap's gonna get bigger, and if we don't advocate for teachers' rights now, it's gonna collapse. Public schools can be great, and we can make that great if we come together as a collective and advocate and give teachers the voice that they actually need. We don't need to hear from billionaires who haven't been in the classroom. So if you agree with me, comment down below what small change or what is something you have been wishing for and advocating for as a teacher that could make the biggest difference for your students. What is something you actually need as a teacher to be more effective to increase student outcomes? Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you next time.